Hello everybody, welcome back to a coloring adventure with CLAldridgeArt. My name is Christine Aldridge. I am your host, and I wish I could say I was the hostess with the mostest, but that claim actually goes to Anne over at A Colorful Life. I am your resident artist here on YouTube. I do come to you weekly in a Sunday live stream where I color and show you the art that I draw. I also do guest artist features once a month, and I am learning to color in front of an audience. So that is who I am. If you like my channel, please do like and subscribe, and that will mean the world to me. Also, if you would like to, please visit me on social media. There are the addresses scrolling on the screen now. I do a follow-up video to my Sunday live show, and I catch up after I've had a chance to read the chats and see what happened during the show, the things that I might have missed. And then I do a Sunday stream or a Wednesday video to catch up and address the things I missed. So the first thing that I missed was a wonderful artist who I have been going a little bit of fangirl about ever since I first discovered her channel, Fiona Art. Fiona was actually in the house on Sunday. I missed her, and so huge shout out, Fiona. Thank you for having been here. We have since talked on Messenger several times, and she is as nice as her art is beautiful. And so I have gone ahead and once again put a link to her channel down below in the description. And I also discovered that she has a wonderful online shop where you can purchase her art. Beautiful gallery of her past work, and then of course a for sale part of the new work. I will say her prices are very reasonable, and I strongly believe that because they are very reasonable, her art moves very quickly in and out of the shop. And so if you would like to get a piece of it, you should not think about it too long. You should execute right then and there, because likely when you go back to see it, it's going to be sold to somebody else. I would also very much like to shout out Lisa at Lisa's Coloring Corner, yeah, I believe it's Lisa's Coloring. I will put a link in, Lisa, who has contacted me. She did let me know that she had purchased 2 of my books and was going to be putting up flip-throughs. So if those aren't already up, then I'm sure they will be soon for those of you who would like to. Lisa has got a marvelous collection of books and coloring supplies, and is quite possibly the most organized person I've ever seen. Another shout out to Sandy at Color Creatively, who is currently working on a tutorial on gold foiling and how to use it as a highlight for designs. She is using designs from my art, from books that I've drawn, and so please go over and check those out. Also, she does a weekly color and chat on Thursday mornings, so that is likely, if you're seeing this on Thursday, it's today, everybody, at 9 a.m. Mountain Time, USA, which is 8 a.m. Pacific, 10 a.m. Central, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and 4 p.m. GMT. And I don't know what time it is in Australia. Likely the late at night, though, I believe. Um, the next shout out goes to Dee Dee Willingham, who included my book, Flowers and Flyers, in her wonderful book haul that she did with her husband on her Monday program. Dee Dee does go live early in the mornings. It is usually 8:30 here on the East Coast of the United States in the morning. Her show technically starts at 9 and runs for about 3 hours usually, twice a week on Mondays and Wednesdays. Dee Dee also is a professional artist who does many, many aspects of art and brings those to you. She is quite the most inspiring person and empowering person for she has things like the Collectors Society or the Idea Collectors Society, and so good ideas for future art, um, and she's got a wonderful group, wonderfully moderated, lots of knowledgeable people, and she's part of a wonderful artist community. So huge shout out and thank you to Dee Dee. Another one to Anne at A Colorful Life for her fantastic color and chat, in which she also used a picture from Flowers and Flyers, and then showed you how she uses it to collage or to create, to cut out some of the parts of it and use it in a collage in her mixed media art, which is simply fantastic. So definitely, of course, if you are already a fruit bat like I have been for the last year, then you know that Anne is just one of those bright spots in everybody's day. Let's see, was that 4? Did I get all 4? What I have been doing here is after our Sunday show, I did sort of zhuzh up and deepened up the colors on the mushroom. I didn't change anything up. I did add a little bit of brown in with my red. Inktense are, of course, water-soluble ink in pencil form. So you lay it down dry, you give it some water, and it activates the ink, and it becomes permanent. It does mix together well on either, the page or on a color palette. You can also pull your pigment directly off the pencil. It comes in the pencil form. It also comes in a stick form that are called Inktense blocks. It also, you can get some colors in like a watercolor paint style palette, but it is ink, it is not watercolor. Once it's down, it is permanent, provided you have saturated it all the way. Can you still move it? Yes. So you do need to be careful if you're going to blanket wash over something that is dark and light, so that it doesn't bleed. But otherwise, it is considered permanent. It also rarely bleeds through because there's usually not enough water in a water brush to fully saturate the paper to let the ink bleed through. That said, you should always use a protective sheet in any kind of coloring book that you use, especially since I publish with CreateSpace, or what used to be CreateSpace, and is actually now Kindle. You can see that it does bleed through a little bit, but as long as you've got a plastic protective sheet or something down, it doesn't do any harm to the image, and it really doesn't buckle the paper. I do like these binder clips just to hold my corners down so that I don't brush my arm across them and curl them as I'm coloring. I also added, after I thought about it, I decided that I would go ahead and make the little bow on our little girl's head purple, like a purple satin ribbon. So I was then able to use the pink and the purple and use it up here, trying to get a little color balance. I also used the orange and yellow from here in this particular flower. Now, that does make this flower bold, and of course the fact that I used the blues from our little man here to make this also makes it bold. I want to be careful that I don't lose the focal point here, but and I don't think that I will in the long run. It might look like that right this very second, but I think that I'll be able to bring it around, depending upon what the other colors are that I choose. I do believe that this is as many colors as I'm going to go with. I'm just going to now use them in different varieties. So let's get started. Okay, let's do this thing. As many of you may have guessed, many of us who make pre-recorded videos do them in bits and pieces as the day progresses, as we have recording time. And as I was just about to get started on this, I was thinking that I had forgotten that I was out of cat food. I looked over at the clock. It was 3 o'clock in the morning, which is, of course, the perfect hour to go to my local Walmart, primarily because the crowds, of course, are gone, and you can get a parking place right in front, and there's no waiting at the checkout. So while I was there, the registers went down for the nightly reboot, and that gave me a few extra minutes to have a look around the store. I had, up to today, been a Washi Tape virgin. I'd never seen it other than on YouTube. I had never used it, and now, in fact, I own it. And it was all I could do not to put all three 5-packs that they carried at Walmart into my cart, but I did settle for just one. It's $1.88 for 5 yards. There's obviously a yard each of these 5 colors. I liked them because I liked the inspiration of the color palette, and I liked the fact that this one started with good vibes, which good vibes is just a good way to think. So I am now a Washi Tape owner. Let's see what I managed to do with it. I'm just I was putting away some of the colors that I had been using that were not going to be needed for this next part. So I think right before I said let's get started, I was talking about ways to tone down these 2 flowers so that they don't take away, in fact, from the main design. One of the ways that I'm going to do that is rather than do bright green leaves, I am going to do a muted green. So in looking at my swatch book, which of course for me personally, a swatch book is a must-have, I'm going to use the leaf green and the fern green on the leaves. So I'm going to go with my 1600 and my 1560. So let me grab those out. There is the fern, and there is the leaf green. Fortunately, they are next to each other. Now, the leaf green is slightly lighter, so I am going to use the darker green along the center stem and along the outside areas of this leaf. I want to give it the appearance that it's sort of 3-dimensional and that it curls underneath on the edges. So you can achieve that by making those darker, and then also using just a tiny bit of the darker shade in here off the stem, where it would be kind of, if you look at the way that a cylinder is, how it's dark on both sides, and then I'll use the lighter here in the middle. This is the fern, so it is the lighter of the two greens. I'm going to use that just very, very lightly. Doesn't take a lot of pigment with Inktense. And then I will see how I did. I'm going to start with my lighter shades, and I'm going to get them wet. And then I'm going to blend the darker shades. And I'm tapping off, and then I'm just sort of moving those darker shades a little bit so that they are sort of irregular. And this won't look as good yet as it will when it's dry. And then if there is any touching up to do after it is dry, you can see those spots that you need to do it. Okay, so just like that. And then I will do it here on the other side as well, starting with the lighter, and a very light touch with your water brush. You don't have to scrub or do anything like that. You really don't even have to squeeze your brush because the water flow, if you've got a good brush, is just perfect without squeezing. You squeeze it when you want to clean the brush off, really. Otherwise, there's not really a lot of point in squeezing it. Now, I will have to deal with the fact that it is coming out of from under this flower, so this flower would kind of be shading it. But remember that if our light source is up here, it's perfectly reasonable that it would be lit all the way to the edge of the petal of that particular flower. Okay, so this, once again, going back to the darker shade, which is the leaf green, and going ahead and doing, once again, my stem. Now, I'm not going to put as much of the dark on this one because this leaf sort of faces upwards, and it would be catching quite a bit of light, but it would be shaded on this side. This isn't magic, guys. I mean that I know how these things look. I've looked at a lot of pictures of leaves, like on the, Googling leaves, and just sort of studying the way that light hits the leaves. And of course I have a lot of nature in my backyard, and I sit here sometimes and think about, ponder the the happenings in the world, and just sort of look at the nature outside of my window and how the leaves, how the light plays on the leaves. Put a little bit of dark in here next to that, but otherwise this will be primarily a very light leaf. So does anybody else shop at odd hours? I know that many of us do keep odd hours. But as soon as I discovered Walmarts were open 24 hours and that I didn't have to go in on a weekend or on a, you know, on a weekday after work or anything like that, and fight those crowds, I was like, good deal. I am up usually either very, very late or very, very early, depending upon what I've been having going on in my life. And so, to me, shopping at, or having the ability to shop at 3 o'clock in the morning is something that you normally only get if you live in a big city. And as large as Virginia Beach is acreage-wise, it is not a huge city. It's certainly a big city. It's got a big population, but it's not anywhere near the size, of course, you know, say metropolitan, you know, any of your metropolitan areas like, you know, like Los Angeles or Boston or New York or anything like that. They quite literally roll up the sidewalks here at around 11 o'clock at night. Yeah, all right, I'm happy with that. And I like the fact that it's muting that down. And it's a beautiful shade. You know, I love those sort of muted, more olivey greens as opposed to super bright greens. Okay, so once again, we're going to go with the leaf green. Making sure, whoops, the fern, sorry. Faulty memory, faulty memory. Leaf green is the dark one. Fern is the light one. Okay, so I was doing it right. I caught myself last week in a moment of sort of extreme stress, staring at the microwave for 10 minutes before I finally figured out how to make it work. That's how I know that I'm really stressed out about something, is if suddenly my ability to do things sort of ceases. But it's now back. I can actually add in my head, calculate times, do all of those wonderful things that I could do. And thinking about new drawings and new content for my YouTube channel and all sorts of things. I was thinking that it might, I mean, for those of you who are aware that I had some stress come up in my life last week and are wondering how I managed to deal with it in what I hope was a fairly straightforward and yet graceful way. And would like to hear about the coping mechanisms that I use to do that, put a comment down below. And I would be happy to tell you about the tools that I use in my arsenal to try to always maintain a happy, positive attitude, regardless of what is happening out there in the world. And I'm happy to share those tools that I use with you if you want to know what they are. If you don't, then I've got tons and tons of ideas for content. and learning, of course, how to draw better, color better, and do all of those things to hopefully make an interesting set of videos that people would like to watch. So I am always open for suggestions, things that you might want to see. Please just comment below and let me know, and I'll see if it's within my power to do those things. Okay, now I am going to, I think that I'm going to go ahead and keep the theme. I used, pulled my color up, the pink up there, so I've got the whole triangle of pinks going right here. And I was thinking that I would use the yellow with just a touch of maybe a mid-vermilion to darken up these. So I'm going to try that, and we'll see if it works. So I'll use some yellow here. It's summer season, so I know that lots of folks are on vacation and going on, going to different places, getting to visit grandkids and all of those kinds of things. And so tell me about your trips. And, if you've got plans and are you gonna and doing something fun? Do you have something wonderful to look forward to? I know some friends of mine have grandchildren on the way, and so they're getting ready to go help their daughters and or daughter-in-laws in those first weeks that can be so hectic. I never had any children, so I don't know, but I hear that those first few weeks can be very difficult. And so I know that those moms will definitely appreciate having the help. Plus, does it get any better than grandchildren from what I hear? No. Let's see if that'll work or not. I'll know in a little bit. I am just tapping off so that I can just keep the streaks sort of out of the yellow part, and I'm trying to be very careful not to hit the green and pull any of that down into the actual berry. I don't know what I was really thinking about when I did these. I do I'm usually thinking about pussy willows, but these definitely are not pussy willow blooms. These are just basically something imaginary so that you can choose whatever you want them to be. Some sort of an imaginary seed for a bird, or fruit for a bird, or fruit for a mouse. There are no rules in coloring. You are the boss of your coloring book. They can be whatever it is that you want them to be. And the only limit is your imagination, and that, of course, is in plenty. Apologize that I am turning the book on you. Early on, I asked the watchers if they found that okay, and they did say yes. And in fact, they turned their books too. So I have taken them at their word. And so I turn my book so that I can get the right sort of angle on that. Okay, I like the way those look. I like the whole way that that turned out. I'll use the same leaves over here, and quite likely the same yellow, because I want to pull the yellow over to this side. So now I've got it, I'll have it here, here, and here. Once again, trying to balance out the use of the colors on the actual page. So let me go ahead and do that, and I will be right back. Ta-da! that part is done. And so now, as you can see, hopefully they balance each other out, but they still don't disturb the main part of the drawing. And now I will be using the probably a toned down yellow with a little bit less orange for these two flowers. Once again, I will use the muted green for the leaves, and that really only leaves the ring. And that I'm going to use very muted shades for. I believe that I am going to choose, for the lightest part of it, I am going to choose the mustard for the straw, and probably the baked earth for the wrap. Although I may use the mustard for the straw and use the muted green for the wrap as if it were a leaf from nature. So that, I think, might work well, and I will show it to you. This is the mustard pencil. This is probably my favorite Inktense color. I think it is so versatile, along with the tan up here, which is just a little bit darker. The back out just a tad here. The mustard is one of those versatile colors that can be used for just about anything, as can the amber. I like the mustard because it's just that much lighter. I like that light gold color of it, and so that is going to be the straw in my wreath. And really, this is just straightforward, a light shade going in. I am just really going to put it on the outer edges and then sort of work it down. Put a big kind of heavy coat on the outsides so that there's plenty of pigment to work with, and just work a little tiny bit of it up into the things, because I want this to look like it's like a bound rope or a bound circle type wreath. Almost called it a doohickey. What is your favorite word for stuff you can't remember the name of? Is it a whatchamacallit, or a who's it, or a what's it, or in my case it's a doohickey? Put that in the comments below, and we can all laugh and have something fun to read at the same time. So I'll do this part, and then I am going to call this a video because it occurs to me that it is 6:30 in the morning. If this thing takes a couple of hours to render and then I post it, it's already going to be Thursday, and of course Sandy is on at 11, and as one of her moderators I want to make sure that I am fully prepared and present and not having to do it on YouTube because I've got my main systems tied up, or on, on my phone because I've got my main systems tied up with the video editor. So hopefully, though, this demonstrates the techniques that I'm using for finishing this particular piece. I probably will do a background. I don't know, it'll likely be a just a very simple wash of probably watercolor in a complementary shade, nothing fancy. I might break out the Tim Holtz Distress inks to do the background a little bit, something in maybe linen or walnut, or just to add a touch of color around it, sort of set off the main part of the image. But other than that, I won't, I'm not going to do anything too fancy with it. I might make this green down in here to indicate a little grass for our little mice to be sitting on. I know that some people feel that adding to a drawing by an artist is a bad thing. As one of those artists, I can tell you that I think that that the art that you create from my coloring books is a collaboration, and that if you would like to add your own little touches, that is just perfectly fine by me. I am going to let this dry before I add the leaf green bands around it. So I will go ahead and show you what I'm going to do with those leaf green bands on these two little bits down here. And all I'm really going to do is start out kind of dark down there and kind of dark down here. This is the leaf green. So dark down here and dark down here. And see how already that gives sort of the impression of a curve? So this would be the shadow part going around the edges of the curve, and the lighter part would be this part up here, and it is the, grab it, because I do believe that I did not put it back. Where is it? Maybe I did. The fern can just go very, very lightly, hardly even touching the page. The fern is the lighter of those two shades. Right in there. And then I can actually pull the darker up into the lighter. And when it dries, that interior will still be light. I know it doesn't look that way right now, but it will. And if you've got too much pigment, just tap off your brush. And there we go. So that will give you just an idea of how I intend to finish this off. I hope you enjoyed watching this picture over Sunday, and today. And once again, if you do have any suggestions for content that you would like to see here on my channel, if you want me to give you some more of my life stories like I did at the beginning, I can work some of those in. I can tell you about some wonderful adventures that I've had, and difficult people that I met, how I handled them. Anything that you want to talk about, please just leave in the comments below. I am 60 years old. I didn't get this old and not learn a thing or two about life and people, and hopefully, if I can prevent somebody else from ever spending a week like the one that I did last week, then I am more than happy to do that. So on that note, everybody stay positive, stay kind. Remember that karma is a good thing. And until we meet again, please color something pretty. Bye, everybody.